Steve, you and I met a couple weeks ago because I wanted to pick your brain about what would make sense for me and my wife Nita to update or reconfigure. And we primarily talked about bathrooms, but about the larger set of needs as healthcare circumstances may dictate in the future, kind of a different arrangement.
Sure.
The bathroom with the step-in tub, with no grab bars and those kind of things,
Right.
may not be appropriate to how we live our lives over the next several years. And so I was particularly interested in what your insights could be about what would make sense, because you know the home, we bought it through you,
Mm-hmm.
you know the neighborhood, and you know the marketplace, and you know what, in general, how much money it makes sense to put
Right.
into a specific property for a specific purpose. But in a larger sense, this is an issue that large parts of the population are always experiencing, and that is, as we age, we come to a point whether we start to question, do I still need this 3/4 acre lot that I have to maintain? Do I want to continue with this, 3,000 square foot home when I've got no children, and the kids and the grandkids come and visit, a couple of times a year, and we're all spending all our time in the family room kitchen. How much space do I need? And then there's the financial issues that people come, up against when they're looking to retire, and they may want to downsize. Maybe they got a mortgage late in life and they want to get out from under that. They've got enough equity to kind of use to transition and downsize into a smaller property and reduce their mortgage debt. All of those kind of issues are things that happen with increasing frequency as we age, and we move towards that transition from raising families to living lives as empty nesters, and then fading off into the sunset, whether we stay in Dayton or whether we're heading to move south or north or east or west. And so you've got, I'm sure, I know, because you've helped some clients of mine make that transaction, sell that home and move to assisted living or a retirement community. Talk about that, some of the unique considerations, some of the things that are important for people to think about as they enter into that life stage, and how you help them make good decisions.
Well, Keith, as you were talking, the numbers of faces popped into my
Sure.
mind of people that have gone through this period of transition, and I would say, first of all, it's transition change for anyone. It can be challenging and can be very difficult, especially as health issues arise. Sometimes very difficult decisions have to be made. And so certainly I always try to counsel people that number one, they don't want to make a rash decision. They want to think it through. Number two, they want to make a decision that makes good financial sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so they don't want to go into a home necessarily and remodel the whole thing if, in fact, it might exceed the market value of the property so significantly that when they are prepared and are wanting to sell the property, they won't leave behind significant equity in the property, an investment in the property. With that said, there are times when you say, look, I love it here. This is where I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make this home accommodate my needs for as long as I possibly can. And the key here is in transition is that you just go in with your eyes open. So remodeling a bathroom makes perfect sense for many, many, many people. But if it's an enormous investment in the property, you have to say, wait a minute, maybe I need to rethink the design and rethink the investment that I'm making in the property. Because at the end of the day, it depends upon your financial status.
Sure.
If you can afford to do it and you want to live there and you've worked all these years to have what you want, then by all means, go ahead and remodel the property. So what I'm saying is that moving is not always the right decision
Sure.
For people. But there are times when, you know what, I've loved it here, I'm ready for a change.
Right.
And that might mean moving from a house with steps to I'm planning for the future. Let's look for something with no steps.
Right.
Let's just look for something all on one level. Or I'm tired of the outside maintenance. Let's go to a condominium where someone else has to maintain that. And I'm willing to pay that monthly fee just to not have the headache of doing it anymore. So transition is always has to be constrained around the financial impact, especially in later years, that it will have upon your financial stability. If there's sufficient funds, that you're not so dependent upon the equity that you build in your home, that you have other investments that you've made with a person like you, then you have a lot more latitude. And where do I want to live? Where do I want to be? Do I want to go through these winters? Or do I want more winter? In fact, it's interesting. I've had 3 clients recently who've moved north. And they're in the retirement age, but they love snow and they're just going to go for snow.
More power to them.
More power to them. Right. So it's a decision that you have to think through. You have to work with a realtor who will help you think that through, because a good realtor is not someone who is there to make you sell or buy today. But a good realtor is to provide, as you do with your clients, a good sounding board, bring in some objectivity to the discussion in what makes good financial sense and what helps the family's well-being, not only their day-to-day living, but also their financial well-being, so that they can continue to live well wherever they are until such time that perhaps they decide to move to a retirement community, which there are many fine options in that regard as well. So you really want to make these decisions cautiously, with an understanding of your own financial position, and whatever you decide to do, whatever someone decides to do in this transition, a good realtor, a good financial advisor will be able to be the sounding board, to separate out some of the issues from the emotional issues to the more cognitive issues that it has to be a holistic decision. It can't be just an emotional response or just a financial response. Yeah. And that's one mistake I think some people do make, is all they look at is the bottom line.
Right.
Now, there's nothing wrong with looking at the bottom line, but we don't live our lives, hopefully, being just totally disciplined by that bottom line.
Driven by that alone, because and that's part of the equation of home ownership, is that it's not strictly a financial thing, though it is financial.
Right.
It's also there's an emotional component to it as well.
It's a lifestyle choice.
And so we had earlier today, we had a state planning attorney here, and we had a conversation about issues related to Medicare and Medicaid planning, and when a couple doesn't have insurance and is in a spend down situation, and the home is one of the protected assets in that, so that if you have to have your spouse or your parent or whatever the case may be go into a nursing home facility, that home is one of those protected assets.
Right. The
surviving spouse can stay in the home and continue to own it. And so that's one of those other circumstances that when you said a minute ago, that you have to look at this in a holistic standpoint.
Right.
Is to really understand the whole picture, the financial side, the health side, the emotional part of it. All of those things come into
Right.
play if you're going to make a good, sound decision.
Exactly.
And so, people like you, people like me, that's what we get paid to do, is to help people make good decisions, to protect their interests, not just the bottom line, but how they live their lives and how they
Exactly.
feel about the lives they get to live.
Right.
And so I appreciate your help with this today, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve. Thank you.